So, just for starters, let's give a little bit of background on Hitbox, just for the sake of our viewers who may not be savvy in the inner workings of the FGC. What is Hitbox's origins? What's your relationship with the FGC? And how have you became known for developing these ergonomic controllers?
Ooh, that was a big one. Well, let's see. Well, we're probably like my brother and I. You saw Dustin a little bit ago. I mean, Dustin and I have been playing fighting games since Genesis, right? It's
Mm,
the Sega Genesis is when we played our first, the original Street Fighter 2. Played a lot of that, and also the original Mortal Kombat. Back in the day, those sorts of deals. Oh, the Blood Code. Back when that was cool. Like,
right
what
on.
was it? Maybe 93, something like that, eons ago. So yeah, I mean that's when we started playing fighting games. And then yeah, we've always just kind of loved fighting games.
Hmm.
We were up in the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle area, and then eventually we ended up living in Southern California, uh, down by Anaheim. And down there is when we really started to get back into fighting games again, heavy. Because they're, like back that was back in like what 2005, 2006, something like that. And back then, I had what had happened? I went to college up in the Pacific Northwest and basically sucked at it. So I ended up moving. I left school and I went down to Southern California to help my brother Dustin, who was going to school. So we just kind of traded off there, and he was going to school, and I was trying to work and things like that.
Right
And
on.
so I think back then you could get because back then you could get a Sega Dreamcast really cheap. Like,
Yeah,
so I was like, shit, I got like a few bucks. And it was like food or Dreamcast. He was like, okay, we'll go with Dreamcast games.
that's
And
the right
so,
choice. It's fine.
so and then actually, yeah, even then, but we ended up World of Warcraft. I didn't play that game, but everybody else I did knew played World of Warcraft. So I was basically like since 2004 when it came out, it was basically just me alone
Hmm.
trying to get online. Like, hey guys, you want to play something besides World of Warcraft? They're like, nah, we're good, bro. So I ended up, but I was living with my brother, so I would eventually try to find new fighting games on Dreamcast
Okay.
to play. So I'm like, hey, you want to try this one? Want to try this one? And we were playing more and more, and we really liked it.
Hell yeah.
And then eventually we really got into Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And then from there, it was just like full throttle, like, we're going to master this shit. So it's a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And then because that, we used to go to all the arcades and stuff in Southern California down there. So we were trying to compete, trying to get good.
Right.
And of course, that's freaking hard when you're like 8 years late to the game or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're just getting bodied. It's like, oh, just gotta get good, keep getting better. And then eventually that just led to making our own arcade sticks. Yeah, eventually repairing our own arcade sticks because they break, right?
Right.
It's like, oh God, I can't DP with Ken. What's going on? Eventually you take the thing apart and you look inside and you're like, oh God, I don't know. But eventually this was like figured out. Basically, looking on the inside of it, like the if you look, do you know what the inside of a joystick looks like?
A little bit. It's the stick, and then it's got the levers, and when you press down, it activates that lever into a certain action.
Yeah. So you pull on it and then you hear the click,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so like basically, I remember at the time I was working on graveyard shift. So and then but I'd talk to Dustin on the phone kind of in the daytime, and we'd be talking about Marvel all the time. And then I remember we were having a conversation one afternoon when I like hadn't slept in forever because it was graveyard shift and I was all messed up. And I see in my head, I see the inside of a joystick, and I realized that the little clicks you feel when you pull the lever, right? Like I was like, oh, that's just a button.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why don't we just have buttons on the top of the thing instead of me fixing the joystick all the time? And then Dustin's obviously into that, and he makes it even better. And we just started slowly figuring out how to make stuff because we'd never done that before. And over time, it just eventually became after tons of modding and trying to. But back then, you couldn't buy you know how like there's circuit boards inside of them that you can kind of buy from websites now?
Yes.
Like back then there were less, and on top of that, we didn't have a lot of like we didn't it was expensive, so we're like, shit, where's like a PlayStation 1 pad or something that we can so my brother Dustin learned how to pad hack. You take the controller apart and then you solder the wire to the button and thing like that.
Yep.
And then yeah, that just kind of slowly turned into like back then we didn't even know like if you press the button that it would actually go because we like never seen a button press where if you press the button the character would move.
Right.
So like we were like, well, if you can wire the D-pad from the pad hack to a button and you press it and it works, then this is going to be amazing, you know? So we're just like, but that took like a month and a half to actually figure out to get done, you know? Like finally we just on the kitchen table and Dustin's like, I got it soldered, you know? And then we do it, plug it in, like, oh yes, this is gonna be sweet.
So you guys were just like actually homebrewing these
Oh
controllers
hell
from
yeah.
just like parts that you had lying around. That's badass. I love that shit.
That's but we wanted to win. Like got our asses handed to us in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and we were late to the party, but we wanted to get good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, you know, if you get hungry enough to do stuff like that, just crazy shit can happen sometimes.
Hell yeah. Now, there has been some dissonance from members of the SGC that say that this ergonomic design was homebrewed well before Hitbox came into the picture. So, were you actually the first ones to develop this type of design, or were you just the first ones to patent it?
As far as I know, we were.
Okay.
I mean, it's like if there's other stuff out there, I mean, I don't know about it. I mean, clearly there's been keyboard type things out there in the past and other things like that.
Right.
So, but in terms of what we did, part of the reason why I definitely there was so much backlash and like when we actually somebody made a video about it when we went to a tournament on it,
Mm-hmm.
and like that got so much attention that like for me I if there had been anybody else I was like I figured it would have come out when then or something, you know. So but it's entirely possible, but there was definitely a huge, at least in terms of the public mind, whatever was going on when they started to do a video on like showing us at the tournament with our wood boxes and stuff like that. That's when, you know, I remember there was like it was amazing to me because there was like 20 or 30,000 views on YouTube about it. And I was just like, wow, 20 or 30,000 people care enough to watch this video about us with our button box, you know.
Mm-hmm.
At least for us it was a big deal at the time.
Going into the cease and desist, you are asserting that junk food had infringed on your 623 patent, specifically under claims 1 and 10. In fact, reading through the patent 623 and what I'll refer to as the A1 for the Smashbox and the Cross Up, it can be interpreted that Hitbox holds a monopoly on the production of ergonomic controllers based on the vague nature of the patent's language. Did you intentionally word 623 vaguely to give yourselves more legal ground to pursue patent infringement against competitors?
So like are we trying to create a patent monopoly or something like that?
Uh,
Basically?
Essentially, that's what it's getting at because a lot of the backlash to this lawsuit is that the way that your patent is worded is written rather vaguely, and it
Well, I mean,
does.
the way it's worded is written by lawyers. So
Okay.
I mean, I don't even know how they worded it or whatnot. Like, what we, I mean, whatever they did is most likely like we didn't give them any special lawyer instructions. You know, like oh,
Hmm.
right, this way. I mean, what we did is we just made a bunch of different stuff that we thought was good and interesting and had value, and we're like, hey, I think we gotta protect this stuff that we made, or at least you know this is stuff that we think is stuff we would want to use in the future or build on, you know. And that's basically what we did. You know, like it's not like there's any grand plan for a fighting game monopoly.
Okay.
like I mean, honestly, we I don't even see how we could do it if we wanted to, but we don't even want to because like I mean we don't even we're right now we're just keeping up with our own stuff, you know, and like I don't know. I mean, people are like afraid of monopoly, but like, I mean, we've been around what since 2010. We've been doing this, and like everybody's been left alone. I think the patents were like filed in the beginning of 2011 on a lot of the ideas that we'd worked on. So there's like 10 years of us not really going after anybody, or even people have been making hitboxes on their own forever, you know. Like, well, at least since it's been going on. In terms of like, we have to basically attempt to protect ourselves, our patents and things like that, just
Yeah.
because like anybody would if they like patented something and like basically if you're lucky enough to where other people want to make what you're doing, it's like, wow, cool. But at the same time, it's like, ooh, it's like bittersweet or something like that, you might say.
Yeah, it almost sounds like, everyone has to walk on a tightrope when approaching these type of things because there
Well,
is.
I mean, in one sense, it's kind of like a report card that,
Mhm.
that says like, "Hey, it's working." Like other people want to do it, other people want to make it, and things like that. So it's like, hey, okay, after 11 years of this stuff, there's people are into it. Like it's just I think it's just part of what comes with the whole deal of the design of Hitbox actually beginning to succeed more in the fighting game community. But I mean,
Right.
we're if anything, we're afraid of like gigantic companies or competitors and things like that would be
And
able to just not just us but everybody.
and that was one of the other questions I was eventually going to lead into. If should Hitbox lose this lawsuit, uh, do you fear that companies like Hori and Kanba are going to move into the market?
To be honest with you, like I mean, we've been done this for a long time, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, like we've always believed in it that it had real value and like real potential to be something that was meaningful, to the fighting game world and like really make a difference and an impact. And because we believe that, there's always been that idea that something like the time that we're seeing now would come, whether it be from, you know, a giant company or whoever. Like
Right.
if you got something that really, like we've known and believed it worked for forever. So we've always been prepared for like if we. I moved to China back in 2015 just because for the first 5 years I just literally sat in my parents' garage just making hitboxes
Hmm.
like all day every day, like we're gonna make this work, it's gonna be good, and then like eventually came to the realization like, okay, after 5 years of doing this, people really do like it, they believe in it, and it really works, right? So I was like, if that's true, this keep working, then eventually it's gonna get to that level where the big guys want it.
Right.
So that's why I was like, well, then I have to learn how to make it out of more than just my garage if we're ever going to keep up. So I moved to China and really just like tried to learn how to do manufacturing there, learn the ins and outs of that, which I didn't plan on moving to China originally, but like that's what I got there and like everything went wrong, everything was wrong. And I was like, oh, this is like a thing that is an art or some sort of weird process of just making it all happen. And so I ended up just going like, well, if we're ever going to have a chance to actually get big or bigger, I'll have to actually learn how to do assembly lines and make sure quality controls there and all these things, and then somehow do it in Chinese, which is its own ball of wax. And then eventually left China and moved all that stuff to Vietnam, was where I've been the last year. But that's all in like an attempt of like sooner or later, whatever happens, we're gonna try to be ready for if we did lose a patent or anything like that, or just and honestly, just because, well, yeah, I mean, just yeah, it's always been it's driven me to do crazy things in terms of trying to make sure that we're prepared for whatever would happen, whether it to be go like if just like suddenly patents didn't exist or whatever, and they're just like screw you hitbox, I would just be like, well, we're still gonna keep making our shit, we're gonna make it better, we're gonna make it competitive. I guess that's a really roundabout answer, but
No,
yeah.
I think that that is an excellent answer. I mean, it's explaining like where the origins and like the thought process behind everything is coming from. It answers the question on, like how was this worded? And it's like, oh, you went through legal representation, which is a valid thing to do. I don't know much anything about patents outside of what I already read.
I mean, like, we hate legal stuff. I mean, we'd rather spend time making stuff instead.
Hmm.
It's like, honestly, for just all of us over here, all of us are just like, get like a queasy feeling in our stomach. It's just like, none of it's fun.
Moving on to the cease and desist that was sent to junk food. What is the factual analysis that junk food is expecting Hitbox to provide outside of the claims that you've already made in your C and D?
Honestly, I'm not sure. That's going to be up to the lawyers of whatever. They know all that stuff better than me, in all honesty.
Okay.
I mean, the just the baseline premise of the whole deal is like, okay, we've got a patent, so they expect that we'll protect the patent, basically.
I do want to ask this, as this wasn't one of my questions I had prepared, but like, what took so long for you to actually start protecting the patent? Because people, like you said, people have been making hitboxes for a while. I know personally, like I've had a few of them that are not, hitbox manufactured. I've gotten products from Marvelous Customs. I've gotten products from Arcade Shock. Um, what has taken so long for Hitbox to actually start sending these cease and desist orders?
That's a good question, actually. Well, a lot of the time, to be honest, firstly and foremostly, is we're just focused on us doing our thing and doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
And like usually, like if you do your thing well, you'll let the rest play out as best you can. But we usually have our plate so full that we're not super concerned about it anyway, because honestly, we pretty much believe that the community is good and should be, encouraged and helped and things like that. Not you don't want everybody to think that you're like out to get them or something.
Right.
When like so it's like you guys do your thing. It's like it's the fighting game community. It's like it's how we started, and people didn't mess with us and this and that. So yeah. But in terms of like when it reaches a certain level where it's not community and it's more like competitors and people really, like it's one thing to be community and another thing to just where it's like, oh, this is actually can potentially hurt us, things like that. And then that it gets scary enough to where you're like, oh, what do we do? I mean, then and largely even then you leave it alone and because all in all we still are mostly just focused on what can we do better you know
Right. Can you comment on your relationship with Junk Food Customs or Travis Crittenden leading up to Hitbox's legal team issuing out the C&D ahead of CEO?
um what can I say? Yeah, I mean nothing negative to say. I mean basically I think the only thing I'd ever heard about it was that uh there was a father and son team that were making hitboxes, which sounded like pretty FGC to me.
Right.
They were pretty cool. So, and I guess they were saving up for his boy to go to college, which sounded great.
Were you surprised by Travis's response in filing a lawsuit against the utility patent?
I don't think anybody expected anything that's going on. You know, that's
Um,
about all I can really say. I mean, like the whole thing's kind of we're just on the roller coaster ride at this point.
okay.
So
Do you feel that junk food requesting a trial by jury is an attempt to sway the opinion of those who are less than knowledgeable of patent law?
I don't know what any of that would be about, honestly. I a lot of this stuff I've just been at a loss at.
So, the way that I'm interpreting this is that a lot of this is being handled by your legal team. And would I be correct in saying that?
I think even then, it's just kind of like they're just kind of responding to what's happening, you
Okay.
know? And honestly, I'm sure something that makes sense will be figured out. I honestly don't really know honestly, just trying to run the other stuff, and then it's like, oh yeah, lawsuit stuff. That's kind of okay. I'll stick to what I know, and then just try to keep the rest of the train going.
Knowing that junk food provides products other than ergonomic controllers like traditional arcade sticks, specifically, I believe their snack box version 2, why is Hitbox demanding that junk food not attend CEO? And why are they asking for all records pertaining to wholesale transactions, retail transactions, so on and so forth?
I think most of that is lawyer stuff. I
Okay.
mean, I know that particularly I was surprised that the premium sponsor of CEO was somebody that was primarily using Hitbox design, you know? And I was
Okay.
like, wow, that doesn't match what I thought was going on. Yeah. So that's just kind of where it came from. Because I was like, oh, father son thing, that's cool doing stuff. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, CEO, the biggest tournament and the only tournament we've had in forever. And
Yeah.
And then, and there's a bunch of, other people I supposedly talked about. Honestly, it was just like something that was like, oh, this doesn't make sense. What's going on and what is, it was just a big surprise, honestly.
Now, I can kind of expect the answer that I'm going to get from this, but we've seen other modders and manufacturers either list their products as sold out or completely shut down listings for similar products. Is Junk Food Customs the only manufacturer that you have issued a cease and desist to?
There was one other,
Okay.
and it was because of basically competitor stuff.
Okay. Are you at liberty to identify who that competitor is?
No.
Okay.
But it was not like in any interest of monopolizing everything. It's just really just trying to protect what we built.
Considering that there is a market for ergonomic controllers like the Hitbox, what do you feel is the best course of action others may want to take to produce their own Hitbox style device? And are you open to collaborations, or would it be under the pretense that all proceeds or percentage of the proceeds would be yielded to Hitbox?
I mean, for a long time, we've been wanting to put together like a community like licensing program so that people could be like officially supported by us, or we could officially refer them to like for customs and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or like even like if people had an old hitbox that needed repair or something like that, it would be nice to have a place on our website where we could refer to people that were modders or, custom builders and things like that. I mean, that's been something we wanted to do, but honestly, it's kind of like I said, where we're just like hanging on and growing and trying to make the regular stuff work. So
Right.
it's just never, it's like, oh yeah, that other thing. I'll get to that when I'm not underwater. And then some guy's just got a bucket dumping more water. It's like, oh, okay.
Okay.
So I mean that's the plan. That's been the plan. And obviously with all the stuff that's been going on, like there's been some people that reached out wanting to do that we'll work with and probably make that happen in this next year coming up, 2022.
Okay.
That's the plan.
I mean, that's awesome. Over the years, we've seen a vocal population within the FGC be very upset with Hitbox between the delays in production, the increase in pricing, and now this lawsuit. Do you feel that Hitbox has been treated unfairly?
I don't think it's fair or unfair. I think it's just the way it goes.
Okay.
Like I mean, it's a big internet out there, and there's going to be all sorts of different opinions. So like, I can understand how somebody would either have problems with us or not. I mean, like, it just depends on what you think we are and what you think we're about and what you think we're doing. So like, I mean, some people just really don't like. I remember back in the beginning when we just had our wooden boxes walking around and we just Dustin and I, my brother, with some couple of prototypes, and just even people then really despised it. Some people because it wasn't an arcade stick.
Uh,
You know,
I still get comments.
and like
I can
and
relate.
it's gotten a lot better because back then they were giving pad players shit too,
Mm-hmm.
which was I was like, well, there's a lot of pad players. How can they even be giving. And as time goes on, things have relaxed. But yeah, just that's where they're coming from. So they were never going to be too inclined to be like, hey, cool stuff, bro. It's just
Right.
so and other people, I mean, like in terms of like production delays and things like that. I mean, like I get it. I don't like it either. It's like I'm doing my best. I literally spend all day every day trying to make it work. So it's like it's one of those deals where I'm like, you do your best and hopefully that's enough. Life's not fair all the time. It's just not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like you just kind of take it and I'm just grateful for a lot of the things that have gone well, and just keep doing our best.
Are there any final remarks you'd want to give, like the FGC or those invested into the situation?
Well, that's another good question. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's like a lot of people that are just like afraid that we're out to get them or something like that. We're definitely not out to monopolize the FGC. I mean, like I said, we're just trying to protect what we built, and like we just talked about, the licensing stuff is and trying to work with people in the community. A lot of times, people in the community are kind of afraid to talk to us. It seems like it's like if I just stay clear, then it's not a problem. Which they're right. We haven't been talking to hardly anybody. It's like we're not out to get everybody. You know, and honestly, we're not really different than we're just FGC. We've always
Mm-hmm.
mind you, it's been a weird, crazy ride for us, but we're still, we're still FGC. It's what we're about, and I don't know. Hopefully, yeah, just hopefully everything can move in a direction where everybody's happier and not angry and can have cool video game controllers because that's what we all. I mean, we all care about it enough to be here and paying attention, So
Obviously, yeah.
it's like, yeah. I mean, that's what we all want, And there's no. That's what we need more of, and probably just less drama. Hopefully, just in general, and things so we can all relax because there's enough other stuff going on to be feeling like it's all difficult about. So this has always kind of been even before Hitbox, it's like my oasis of, I think for a lot of people, our oasis away from the BS that is a lot of the stuff in life. So, and to have that bastion of whatever feel threatened or in trouble is it's definitely not good for me. I'm sure a lot of other people don't like that feeling as well. So
Right.
I just hope that things can relax and everybody can feel better about it.
Shawn, I 100% appreciate your time. Thank you so much for talking to us, man.
Glad to be here and Happy New Year and all that. Should be
Happy New Year.
a
Stay
relaxing
safe.
day.
Yep.
We're gonna play Dustin and I are gonna play Diablo Resurrected. We got a special cross-up profile to play Diablo 2 on cross-up that we've been playing with, so that's what we're gonna
That's
do
sick.
tonight.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. Finally got some time to do it. So
Absolutely. Well, thank you and wish you all the best.
you too, man.
All right.
Thanks.
Be easy.